If you're going to be consistent day in, day out, 24/7, the Dom has to magnify across his entire life those qualities of trustworthiness, vision, structure, and appreciation.
Our question today comes from Naomi, a 22-year-old woman who identifies as a submissive and is with a boyfriend who's 26 and who identifies as a dominant. They both have satisfying kinky sex, but she wishes to expand the dynamics so that this is more of a lifestyle and not something that just happens in the bedroom. Expanding the dynamic outside the bedroom has been challenging because neither she nor her boyfriend seem to have a good grasp on exactly how to accomplish this.
Number one, you have to recognize that expanding outside the bedroom is actually a really big leap. It takes planning. It actually takes quite a bit of development. And the foundation needs to be exponentially deeper than what's necessary for a bedroom scene. And so it's not linear, it's an exponential expansion. And understanding that just gives you a good foundation. Now, what needs to be expanded? The eminent beginning for a dominant is trustworthiness, is being trustworthy for his submissive. I elucidate in the book several aspects of trustworthiness, so I'm just going to run through them. I don't have time here in this podcast to literally dissect them the way I do at length in the book, but the quality of trustworthiness is the concept of consistency and initiative applied to the following domains. Number one, reciprocity, then transparency, boundaries, independence, goodwill, commitment, and not being emotionally reactive. So doing those things consistently and taking the initiative to do those things is what creates trustworthiness. That is the foundation for any dom-sub interaction. Then the dominant needs to add on the additional aspects of competency, having a vision, direction, being appreciative and grateful, and having the ability to implement a structure. And again, those have to be done with consistency and initiative, otherwise there's not trustworthiness. Now, within the context of a single scene for an hour or two, you can do that with consistency. You can be consistent about being dominant for 2, 3, 4, 5 hours. If you're going to be consistent about all of those things day in, day out, 24/7, you have to be prepared for that. And so the Dom has to magnify across his entire life those qualities of trustworthiness, vision, structure, appreciation, and that is quite a challenge for a 26-year-old. It's not impossible, but it is a challenge. The other thing that happens is in the bedroom, you're both horny, you're in your 20s, sex is appealing, kinky sex is appealing. It's easier for a submissive to suspend disbelief. He's not really that dominant, but you know what? I want to submit. And so for these 5 hours, we'll just ignore that I don't really respect him that much. I respect him a little bit, but I really want this experience. And so I can just suspend my disbelief a little bit. If you're trying to move outside the bedroom, that no longer becomes possible. The respect has to be real. And that respect comes from all the things I mentioned before. Does he have a vision? Is he competent? If he's just a fuck up and he makes mistakes all the time, well, you can't believe and respect and trust that he's going to be safe. If he has no vision, if he doesn't know what he wants to do, where he wants to go, where they're struggling here, then they're going to have a hard time setting up a 24/7 relationship. So in terms of vision, which seems to be the struggle here, it seems like if she is having the urge to expand it outside the bedroom, hopefully she's not just reacting to an extreme submissive need. Hopefully he has earned her trust, even outside the bedroom. Hopefully he has exhibited all of these qualities, and because he is so trustworthy, because he is competent in these other areas of his life, she is moved to want to express her submissiveness outside the bedroom. And now they're just struggling because he hasn't yet been able to come up with a vision for what to do with that. And that's fine. I think that he should pat himself on the back if that's the case, because the hard work is done of earning her respect, of earning her trust. Now he has to do some self-knowledge. He needs to look inside and say, what do I really want? Because she's offering me the world. She's offering me everything. So what do I want? If you have a partner who's offering you everything, it's on you to figure out what it is I want. What is it that I'm willing to take on? Because the more power I take, the more responsibility I have. But she's offering me the world. So it's not up to her. She seems like she's on board for this, and she can be a part of the negotiation. She should. But a large part of it is he needs to come up with a vision for the relationship and take the lead towards that vision. And, at 26, I don't necessarily blame him, but it's time for him to go inside and do some journaling about what his ideal relationship looks like, because she's ready to give it to him. She's literally saying, I will give you your ideal relationship. What do you want? And he doesn't know.
Yeah, it takes a lot of self-knowledge at 26. And I can tell you with confidence, I did not have this much self-knowledge when I was 26 years old. The first sort of framework that came to mind when I was reading this is, well, what could he do in terms of a vision? And again, this is not advice, and this is not what I'm saying he should do, but it's that whole traditional gender roles, 1950s trad wife kind of dynamic where the roles are already predefined a little bit for you, where the boyfriend attempts, if possible, we have no idea what profession or if any he is in, takes on a lot of the fiscal responsibilities, a lot of the major decisions. And when you're doing something like this, it's hard to not think that the entire relationship is going somewhere that is somewhat permanent, vis-a-vis perhaps a marriage. You can't really do a 24/7 BDSM dynamic and say, yeah, we're just seeing each other casually. I mean, in these sort of situations, it's hard to do this and not think about, well, how are we going to raise kids? Do we want kids? What kind of career should you have versus I have? Because if you're working, I'm talking about the woman, if she's working 80-hour weeks, well, that's going to be really difficult for her to be able to give him the kind of submission that he requires. But then if he insists that, hey, you can't work so much because you have all of these obligations to me in the dynamic, well, then he needs to step up and be able to provide financially. And again, this is just one way of doing it, and it's that traditional way that's available to examine and study. How you do it in a modern context where those sort of dynamics are a bit less available for perhaps economic reasons, that's something that he needs to really think about. But you're right. It also makes sense where you have these age gap relationships where these kind of dynamics are perhaps a bit more common, where the man may have the resources required to be able to pull this off, where he can tell the woman, hey, I don't want you working this much, like whatever the job is, work less, I'll take care of all the finances, and you take care of whatever it is, domestic stuff, laundry, sucking my cock. You need to have the bandwidth for that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's a tall order for a 26-year-old, but he's in a good position at least, that he's got a girlfriend who wants it.
I would say, yeah. I think that is the appeal many times of an age gap type relationship, is that in the traditional older man, younger woman kind of thing, he's already established, he has the means, he can create that lifestyle in some sense. But I think that women often emotionally respond to the notion of potential. I don't know that she would be offering this to him if she didn't see that he was headed there. And that he will have the means. I don't think he has to have them now. I think he has to have the strong probability of getting them soon. Soon meaning 7-10 years. But she's betting on a guy she believes in. And she's offering this in a very good spirit of saying, hey, I really see this in you, and I think that you could be my dominant. You're right. It can't be casual. Now you're talking about setting up a life. Once it's outside the bedroom, once you're like creating this entire sphere, then the line between the game and reality starts to blur even more. I think that becomes very difficult to do on a non-intimate basis. Now, that's not to say that you have to marry every person you're intimate with. It is to say you are intimate with everyone you do this with. And so then you have to navigate if we're not headed towards marriage, well, let's be thoughtful about how far we go into this intimacy. Let's be thoughtful about what the ending plan is, how that's going to look, because if I don't see this headed to a permanent place, there's zero possibility of that. Then we have to have, not that we can't be intimate. I've been intimate with plenty of people that I didn't marry, but we have to be a little bit honorable about saying, hey, are we both willing to accept the hurt that may happen at the end of this? And for myself personally, I think many times the depth of the experience is worth the hurt at the end, in a very sort of Garth Brooks The Dance kind of way. Is the dance is worth the hurt that you feel after? And if it is, then you can make that decision with both eyes open. But both people have to be on board for a significant amount of pain when the intimacy ends and say, yes, you know what, it was worth it anyway.